Hello friends, here we are starting with the sources of finance and the financial strategies. See, the introduction part, finance is required to set up as well as running the businesses, right? So we require finance everywhere. If you have to start the business or you have to run the business, at the both the situations, at the both the processes, you require the finance, right? Now, at the time of starting the business, the owners provide finance by the way of share capital, right? Which is long term in nature. However, in case of the big projects, the owner's stake will not be sufficient and they need to borrow the long term loan which are provided by the bank. So obviously, see anybody who want to start the business, right? How he can start the business? He will use his own funds, right? He will use his own funds. But if the business or the project is big in the nature, then how he is not having that much of sufficient of cash, then he has to borrow the money from the banks or the institutions, right? So in simple term, if you have your fund, if you have your own fund, you can start the business, but that if that is not sufficient, then you have to borrow the fund from the banks, right? Finance required for a day-to-day activity is called as the working capital finance. So in day-to-day operation of the company, day-to-day operation, for example, purchase of the raw material, then transportation charges, like that, for any company, the day-to-day activity, the finance is required. That finance is nothing but the working capital finance, right? The organization always try to maximize the profit and minimize the cost of the fund. Means what? Whatever the fund we borrow, for example, if any company want to borrow a loan, for example, rupees of 100 crores, right? And the HDFC bank is providing 7% and SBI is providing at 6%. So which fund they will prefer? Obviously from the SBI 6%, right? That means every bank, every company want to minimize the cost of the fund. Equity and preference share capital are and the unsecured debenture are the type of the clean finance, right? So see, what is the equity, what is the preference share, that we what is the debenture, that all we have to discuss in detail in this chapter. Now, the rate of interest on the borrowing depend on the many factor. For example, say nature of the security, then strength of its balance sheet, the performance and the profitability, and rating from the rating agency. So, how the rate of interest is defined? So, any person come to bank for the bank loan, asking the term loan, right? So, what we see? What is the security available? What is the collateral available, right? What is the balance sheet, right? Apart from that, what is whether the company is making profit or not, what is the rating, right? For example, say CIBIL score, like that. So that we all checking, and then after that we decide the rate of interest. Okay, so this is the basic about the introduction part. Now important we have to discuss is the equity. What do you mean by equity capital? So friends, this is a complete theoretical chapter and it is very easy to understand. So say see equity. See here, equity means what? Equity means simply it is the quality of being fair, impartial, or simply just. See, equity name itself it is indicating equity means equal, right? It is the synonym for the fair, impartial. Now, what do you mean by the capital? Capital means simply the money invested by the owner at the time of setting of the business and the profit retained over a period of time. So capital means what? Suppose I have to start the business and I have invested, for example, 100 lakh rupees in the beginning. So that 100 lakh rupees is what? It is the capital which I have infused into the business. That will be the capital, right? So capital means simply the money invested by the owner at the time of starting or setting up of the business, and the profit that which we are retaining over the period of time, that will be the part of the capital. Okay, so simply what do you mean by the capital? Simply in simple terms, you remember capital means simply the money invested by the owner. Okay, now what are the features of the equity capital? See, equity means what? Fair and impartial. And equity capital means it is simply the money which is invested by the owner, that is the capital, right? Now equity capital has some feature. What is the feature? See, it is divided into the unit called as the equity share, right? And each unit has same value called as the nominal value. For example, say you are having 1000 unit and each unit is having value 10 rupees. So total value of the capital will be 10,000. And what is nominal value? Each unit having some value. For example, say 10 rupees is what is the nominal value. And what is the total capital? 10,000 will be the capital. And what is the equity share? So it is having 1000 parts, so 1000 will be the equity share. Okay, very easy. Now equity holder has a two type of financial right. Suppose you are having equity. You see, equity means simply say I am the owner, ownership. See, I have the 50% of the equity of the company. Means what? I am the 50% owner of the company. You may be watching the Shark Tank, right? In that they are always talking, I take the 10% of equity for 10 crore rupees. My ask is 50 crore for 5% of the equity. That means what? Equity means simply I am the taking the ownership in the company. Now, what the equity holder has the right? Obviously, right to income means what? If I purchase the equity, I will get the dividend. Equity means what? Equity share I am purchasing. So on that shares, I will get dividend. Okay. So right to income. Next is what? A right to retain the surplus asset in case of liquidation. Liquidation means what? Simply winding up of the company. If the company fails, then all asset will being sold. Right. So in such a cases, the right to shareholder will be maintain or retain the surplus asset apart from the liquidation. Then additionally, they also have the voting rights. If you are having the share which are governed by the some act for and that are giving you the privilege to vote, then you will have the voting rights. It depends on the which type of share you are purchasing. Okay, so simply if you are having the equity capital, equity shares, then you will have the right to income, right to retain the surplus asset after the liquidation, and the voting right you may have depend on by which act it is being governed, depend on the article of association, right, of the company. Anyone can buy or subscribe to any number of equity share subject to the terms and condition prescribed in the article of association of the company. So how much see, basically article of association is what? It is a very much and basic fundamental document of the company. Any company we suppose going to form, that must have the article of association, and in that they will describe in detail what should be the ownership, how much should be the share contain retained or allocated to each member, right? Then how much you can issue from by the way of IPO, right? How much you can sell to the public using the bonus share, like that. That means everything is mentioned in the article of association. So I can say anyone can buy, anyone can subscribe any number of equity share as per the article of association mentioned in the article of association of the company. Okay. Now see further, what all subscriber to the equity share are governed by the common document called as the memorandum of association or the article of association. So two documents are important here, memorandum of association and the article of association. All the subsequent transfer of such a share also have abide by the MOA or AOI, that is memorandum of association, article of association. In case of transfer of share, if I have to transfer of share, then whatever the clause which is mentioned in the MOA or AOA, that have to be followed. The equity shareholder can take exit at will by following the prescribed rule. So obviously if I want to buy, if I want to sell my shares, I will sell my shares, right? So that is what simply the exit as per the rules, right? And where the rules are mentioned in the MOA, AOA. If the company is listed in the stock exchange, then it is very easy, right? The liquidity of the equity share increases, and since the holder can sell to anyone through the exchange, so it is very much common, right? So if the company is listed in the say BSE or NSE in the stock exchange, then you anytime anyone can purchase, anytime anyone can sell, provided in the time, right, up to 3. So what we can say, the liquidity of the equity share will increase. Obviously anyone can buy it, and so if buyer is more, price will increase, buyer are less, the price will decrease. That's why we can say they are highly having more liquidity. If the shares are listed in the stock exchanges, if the company is listed in the stock exchange, then it will be highly liquid. Okay. Equity shares can be priced by issuer at the nominal value or at the premium or discount, subject to extant guideline and the regulation. So equity share can be priced by at a nominal value. Nominal value means what? The price at which they are being sold. Or premium means they are sold at a more than the face value. Discount means they are sold at a less value than the face value. So simply nominal value means nominal value, right? Or issue price is nominal value. Premium means more than that and discount means less than that. So it depends on that rules and regulation. It is allowed, right, up to the rules and extent guidelines. Equity capital, see how we can see how we can use shares at a free of cost, how we can give at a discount, that all we have to discuss in detail. Okay, see, free of cost means simply you are giving the bonus share, right, like that. Discount means, for example, say ESOP, the company giving the share to its employee at discount, that is what ESOP simply. Equity capital can be enhanced, reduced, or subdivided through or buyback or bought back or issue free of cost like a bonus share, subject to the extant regulation and the guidelines. So obviously the capital you can enhance, reduce, subdivide, bought back or issue at a free of cost like a bonus share. The equity shareholder can also pledge and borrow against the share, as an equity share is marketable and the valuable security. So obviously, so it is very much common that you can pledge whatever the shares you are having, you can pledge, you can keep. Pledge means simply you are pledging against pledging and you are taking the money from the bank. So there are some shares, right, provided that there must be some criteria that shares you can pledge into the bank and again that bank can give you the loan like that. Okay, so equity shareholder can also pledge and borrow the money against the shares. So this is very much a basic part. Now we are going to discuss the different type of the capitals. Okay, so first it is very easy to understand. Okay, it is complete theory part and it is very easy and 90% of the things you are already knowing, right? So see, what is authorized capital or the nominal capital? Simply this represent the maximum amount of the capital that company is authorized to issue, which can be in installment or as per the board decide. This is prescribed in the again memorandum of instruction or article of association, memorandum of association or article of association of the company. So basically authorized capital means what? See, in the company's AOA or MOA, they have shared that up to 1000 of crore capital you can raise. That means maximum amount that you can raise, right, authorized to issue. That is what the authorized capital or the nominal capital. Now what is the issue share capital? Means it is a part of authorized capital which is issued to public for subscription. This includes the share issued for cash and for consideration other than the cash to the promoter of the company and other people. Simply issued means what? How much part of what? The authorized capital or the nominal capital we are issuing to public. For example, out of 1000 crore is the maximum that I can issue as per the article of association. Now I decide out of that I have to only raise the fund for 800 crores. So 800 crore will be what? My issued share capital. Okay, next, what is subscribed share capital? It is the portion of the issued or the share capital that is subscribed by the public. So if I say, see, subscription means what? Like example, you are subscribing for the IPO, right? So out of 800 crores, I have announced that my company want to raise 800 crores, right, and as per the article of association our authorized capital is 1000. So out of that I want to raise 800 crores. This is what my issued capital. Then I announce the IPO and public come into picture and public is not trusting my company, so they only subscribe up to the 500 crores. Okay, 300 crores left unsubscribed, right? My target is 800 but only 500 is subscribed. So public has subscribed using say any through broker up to 500 crores. So this is what? This is the subscribed share capital. It is the part of the issued capital. Okay, so subscribed share capital means the share capital which is subscribed by the public or applied and allotted by the company. So it is possible that all shareholders who have been called upon to subscribe to the capital may not respond, therefore actual subscriber capital. Okay, means what? I have asked for 800 crores, that is what my demand, but public only subscribed for 500 crores. That is what the subscribed share capital. Now what is called up share capital? This is the part of the issued capital that company has called up from the shareholder. That means what? The amount that company has requested from the shareholder. That means 500 crores people have subscribed, but I think that what money I should ask from the public, my decision may change. So out of that 500, how much I am asking money to the public? For example, I only ask for the 400 crores, right? This is what the called up share capital. This is the part of the issued capital right? This is the part of the issued capital that company has called up from the shareholder, right? This is the called up share capital. So name itself it is indicating, right? What is authorized capital? How much you can authorize, how much you are able to raise money. Issued means how much out of the authorized you can issue. Subscribe means how much people have subscribed, and called up means how much you have called up, how much you are asking money from the public. Okay, next, what is the paid up capital? Again, paid up capital is the amount of the money or the company has received from the shareholder in the exchange of share. Means what? See, you are asking money to the public. They have subscribed, right? But sometime what they will do, they will cancel the subscription or they may skip the subscription, right? So depending on that, how much actually money you got, that is what the paid up means, how much money has been paid actually. So paid up share capital. Okay, so however, even after the subscription, some may skip or delay the actual payment at the end, and in such a cases, paid up capital can still be lesser than the subscriber capital, and it is 90% chance that paid up capital will be less than the subscriber capital, because sometimes people will get back the, now I have subscribed but I don't want to buy, I don't want to send the money actually, right? In such a cases, paid up capital is called paid up capital. Now, what is the call in arrear again? These are the amount that is called with respect to the share and if not paid before the due date. So, for example, I have subscribed and due date to payment is 15th and I have not paid up to 15, then the call money, it is also called as the allotment money. If any failure or default arises to send the call money, it may be called as the call in the arrears. So, simply see, 15th was the last date, right, for the payment, and I have not paid, then after the 15th it will become the arrear, like we call it a arrear dues, right? So call in arrears means you have subscribed for the shares but you have not paid after the due date. In such a cases, that is called as the call in the arrears. Simply, arrear name itself is a self indicating. Now, what is unpaid share capital? Unpaid share capital is the amount finally determined as unpaid, for which the management can again take the suitable decision. For example, they may reissue the amount of shares, like that. Okay, unpaid share capital name itself is indicating. Unpaid means what? The amount that is not paid, unpaid. Now, forfeited shares means, again it is a self-explanatory. Forfeited means what? It is simply forfeit means cancel. So these are the part of the subscribed capital which not fully paid, and as required as a final resort, the company forfeit the amount so that it can be reissued as the board decided, subject to the regulation. In simple word, equity share investment which is cancelled by the issuing company is called as the forfeited share. Forfeited means simply cancelled due to many reasons, and 90% due to the non-payment. In such a cases, company board can take the decision suitable regarding the reissue or cancellation. Okay, so this is all about the forfeited shares. Now, next is what? Why equity capital and not the long-term loans? So see, equity, see how you can want money. Either see, simply if you have the company, you have two options. You need money, you can sell the ownership of your company, or you can borrow the fund from the bank. Okay, then why the selling the ownership? That is what the equity capital is preferred. Okay, now see, except owner and the promoter, no one would be able to take the inherent risk, right? Obviously. So who will take the risk? See, if I have to give the loan to the as a banker, I have to give the loan. How I can take the risk on your company, right? So I am the owner, right? I am purchasing share means I am the promoter, so I can take the risk, right? Lender can never assume the risk because they are interested in the immediate and the guaranteed return or the reward. So obviously, when bank will lend, obviously a bank will check the balance sheet, everything, and they want the return, they want the interest, they want that bank, the company should not get default. Then only we will lend the money, right? Hence, the equity is the natural choice and the first option to raise the fund. So, see, generally 90%, if a new company is there not having strong balance sheet, how can they borrow the money? They have to sell the ownership. That is they have to sell the equity. Okay, and this is the first option to raise the fund. Now, raising fund through the equity have quite and the few advantages, which are, what are the advantages? Raising fund through equity. Raising fund through the equity means simply selling the ownership in the company by the way of shares. Equity holders are not required to be paid compulsorily any reward or the interest. For example, if you borrowed money from the bank, you have to pay the interest, right? But you are selling the ownership by the way of equity, it is not compulsory that you have to pay any reward or the interest, or even the paying the dividend is, it is also not compulsory, right? In small company startups, they are not giving the dividend, because they will use the dividend only after they become the big company, right? So in the startups, whatever the investors are there, they are only investing assuming that whatever I have invested, it gets doubled in few years, like that. Okay, so they are not getting the dividend. So paying the dividend or any reward is not compulsory in the starting equity. Next, unlike the loan, there is no repayment. In the loan, you have to repay by the way of installment. There is no repayment because you are selling the ownership, and it provides the risk capital, which otherwise it is difficult to source. It also provides the risk capital because you are getting money right after selling the equity. So you will, the capital will be used against the risk in some bad situations. Okay, risk capital. It gives the holder a sense of ownership. So whatever the person going to purchase, he will be the owner. So sense of ownership instead of any reward, the ownership sense. High amount of equity provides higher level of the safety and the confidence. So obviously, more the equity, more the safety, and the more the confidence to the lender. For example, see, if I am holding the 50% ownership in the company, I approach for the bank for the loan. So bank will say, oh, he is the promoter, he is having 50% ownership, so good person, give the loan, holding big portion of the company. Okay, like that. Okay, so confidence in the lenders. Now, what are the drawback of having the equity capital? Okay, raising fund to the capital equity. Now see, what are the drawback of raising the fund to the equity? First, the cost of the capital is higher than the cost of any other source of capital. Why? Because the shareholders are expecting the return. They are not expecting dividend like that, but they are expecting return. So we can say indirectly the cost of capital may be higher. Okay. The cost of raising fund through equity is generally higher as compared to the cost of raising other security. How? See through example. It takes an expert marketing agency to appeal the general public for subscription, and one has to sell out a huge amount in respect of the advertisement, printing, commission, underwriting commission, like that. Means what? If you have to raise the fund, for example, say for you, you will launch IPO. For that, the marketing is needed, some expert needed, commission will be there. So more expenses are there. So cost of raising the fund will be more, right? The real cost of servicing. Now see, real cost of servicing means the equity capital can actually turn out to be higher than the debt, because how? The dividend to be paid to the equity holder is out of the post tax profit. So you are very much aware, right? After paying the tax, whatever at the end you are remaining, right? That is the profit after tax. From that you have to pay the dividend. Okay. In other words, dividend payable is not deductible expense, and on the other hand, the interest on the loan is deductible expense, resulting in the reduction in the tax liability. So see, whatever the profit you are having after tax, out of that you have to pay the dividend, right? So dividend you are paying is not giving any exemption in the tax. But if you are paying some interest on the loan which you have taken, right, you will get subsidy like that. Okay, so that interest you are paying to the bank, that can be exempted for the tax benefit. Okay, so this is what, how the real cost of servicing gets more. Now, as you increase the equity capital by inducing the public at large, you dilute your own holding and losing the control of ownership, or ultimately the control on the management. So obviously you are selling your ownership, right? So your control on the ownership or your control on the management will get dilute. Okay, these are the drawback for the equity capital. Now, what do you mean by the accrual? See, accrual means what? Simply, see, accrual means what? Simply, you are collecting something. See, for example, here is a small, I say, and a bucket. You are putting something. So lot of, for example, money or any coins have been accumulated. Accruals means simply accumulation. In simple words, it is simply the accumulation or getting it together. For example, children's bank, or the coin pot, okay, where you are putting some money day to day basis and it will get more. So accrual means what? Accumulation. So in internal accrual is nothing but the reserve of a profit or retention of the earning that the firm has created over the year. They represent one of the most essential source of long term finance, right? Since they are not injected into the business from the external sources. So first thing, what is internal accrual? It is what? It is the reserve profit, or it is the profit after tax collected for long period of time. So whatever you are getting profit, you are keeping aside, that is that become the reserve of the profit. Whatever the earning you are doing, that you are retaining for the long term, that is what nothing but the internal accrual. The part of the profit after tax is retained by the company, which is usually reflected into the general reserve. These retained profit are nothing but the internal accrual of the company. So whatever the profit you are getting after the tax and then paying all the liability, right? So that profit you are retaining for some purpose. It may be for the as a general reserve, and that is nothing but the internal accruals. Okay. Now, what are the advantages of it? Simply, there is no any restriction for the internal accruals. Means there is no any restrictions for the use. For what purpose you are using, because it is a part of the profit you can use for any. This can be used for a long term as well as short term purpose. This can be used for long term means what? Purchasing machinery like that. For short term means like working capital. The internal accruals do not have any cost or use of servicing, so it is a part of profit. So don't no need of paying any interest or dividend. So there is no any hidden cost. Internal accruals are readily available, so it is part of profit. No formality how to complete, it is readily available. Internal accruals are as liquid as in the form they are remain in investor. Means what? See, this is directly available as a reserve, so anytime you can avail it. So it is a liquid, it is in the liquid means from it can get as soon as you want, that is called liquid, right? So it is uninvested or ininvested, so it is not invested, right? It is available readily, so it is liquid. Use of the internal accruals neither change the ownership structure nor result into the dilution of control. So using the part of profit which is the reserve will not change any ownership or no need of sharing any dilution. The funds are readily available because it is your own fund. So there is no cost of raising the fund as it is the readily available. It is part of the surplus, part of the profit after tax. Okay. So these are the basic advantages of the internal accruals. Now, what are the disadvantages then? See, just because internal accruals are readily and easily available, there is a tendency of indiscriminate application of the return on. See, obviously, you are having the business and you earn, for example, 50,000. So, for what purpose you are using? You may purchase the bike, you may purchase car, you may purchase anything, you may go to the pub. So, this is indiscriminate application of return earning. So, it depends on the ownership. Okay. So, indiscriminate application may happen. The cost of this fund is higher because this represent the undeclared dividend. So the fund therefore belong to the equity shareholder and they expect the reasonable return. So see, as we are not giving the dividend, giving is up to you to give dividend or not, right? But practically, ideally, you should give. Otherwise, you become unpopular in the market. So the part of the profit or the accrual, it is nothing but the undeclared dividend. It represents the undeclared dividend. It is not the part of actually, but it represents. That's why ideally you should give the dividend, right? So whatever the investor, they are expecting some return. So it is a part of undeclared dividend, we can say. The retained earning are deprivation of the dividend, and over the use of such earning may hurt the shareholder, particularly the minority shareholder. See, obviously, I have some part of share, right? I have purchased, so I expect some return in the form of dividend, right? Or whatever the profit you are getting. For example, I am having the share of Tata company, right? And Tata earn a lot of profit, say 50,000 crores, right? And they are not giving any dividend. And that 50,000 crores, whatever they have earned, right? They are what they are doing. They are doing the charity out of it. So, because as an investor, how I can think, oh, whatever I have invested money that are being used for charity, I want return. That means what? Deprivation of the dividend. And over the use of such a fund may hurt the shareholder. So shareholder will get hurt, will get hurted. The company cannot build a good dividend track record, resulting into the lesser interest by investing the public. Means what? Simply, if you are not see, the company is not paying any dividend, right? So the company gets unpopular. See, for example, suppose there is news, Infosys giving the dividend of 50 rupees per share, so that become big news and Infosys get popular. So simply, the company cannot build the good dividend track record, resulting into the less interest by the investing people. So people will not subscribe their shares, right? Safety over safety cover provided by the retained earning is reduced by the use of it. So whatever safety cover provided by the retained earning will be reduced. See, whatever you are having a reserve, that will be worked as a capital against the risk. So you are spending your profit after tax, spending your reserve, so safety will get reduced. When companies invest in the project with no cost element, they may not be always well scrutinized as those funded by IPO proceeds or borrowed funds. So this is the harming the equity holder. How? See, suppose you are spending the whatever the retained profit or the reserve. So no rules and regulation. So you have money, you will spend it. But otherwise, you have to spend by the way of say IPO or any other procedure. You have to follow all the rules and regulation. Then only you will get money and then you will be able to sell. That means scrutiny is less while using the profit, that is the accruals. Okay. So this is all about the disadvantages. So friends, here we will stop. You can subscribe us on the YouTube Banker Zone. You can join our Telegram group Banker Zone CAIB. You can directly search Banker Zone CAIB on the Telegram to join the group. And also you have to download the application from the Play Store, and it is available for the Android users, Banker Zone CAIB. Thank you friends.